Hey, so we're here with Coach Molly Miller from Grand Canyon. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm well, thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Coach, when you realized that coaching was something you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Oh, can you hear me?
No, I can hear you. I said, when did you realize coaching was something you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
Oh gosh, I guess there was a pause in there because I didn't really know that that was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I actually was getting my MBA and interested in going into the business world. I'm kind of a people person, so I got my undergrad in marketing and management and thought I was going to do something with like marketing. And I ended up as a marketing director for a group of neurosurgeons in Springfield, Missouri, and was really, really enjoying it and didn't really think, I mean, I loved the game. I was pretty headsy as a point guard, had a high basketball IQ, but didn't really think that you could maybe get straight into college coaching, work your way up. And I didn't have my teaching degree. I thought you had to start at like seventh grade science, coaching the B team, which nothing wrong with that. My dad was a high school counselor. And so he coached a little bit on the side. So I didn't realize that, maybe I could get into coaching at the college level right away. And so when the assistant job came open at my alma mater, Drury, a bunch of people are in my head here. I had this wonderful job, but they're kind of in my ear, like, Molly, you should look into maybe getting back into it at your alma mater. I'm like, really? So at the point, I asked the head coach, Steve Harold, I was like, was this something that you think I should consider? He's like, heck yeah, I do. So the rest is kind of history. I went back and I coached there, and I was an assistant for a few years and then got the opportunity to take over the head coaching job, and never really have any interest in going back to the corporate world. I mean, it's got definitely it's pluses and minuses. There's it's very time consuming, but just what you give to the sport, but what you get in return, it's unparalleled with the relationships you build and just the mentorship. And I love every second of it. So obviously found my way to Grand Canyon there, and still enjoying it since day one. So really blessed to get the opportunity to hop into college coaching and work my way to where I am now.
hmm So you mentioned it earlier. If I remember correctly, you're a native of Springfield, Missouri.
Yes.
Okay, so if you were to use one word to describe a Missouri basketball player, one word, what would it be and why?
Probably tough.
Yeah.
I think the toughness, Southwest Missouri, I grew up watching. They were Southwest Missouri State instead of Missouri State, but the Lady Bears, coached by Cheryl Burnett, or that Melody Howard played, Jackie Stiles played. Southwest Missouri had really good girls basketball when I was growing up, and I think a lot of that is due to that Final Four team. And I remember we have a women and girls in sports day coming up this Thursday, and we were doing a little video montage, and they asked me who kind of my influence was growing up, and my inspiration. It was Cheryl Burnett. I remember being a ball girl, and I thought it was the coolest thing that I got to wipe up their sweat, that before every game we would line up and we would shake Coach Burnett's hands, and she would say, look me in the eye, and she'd say, now firmer handshake, firmer handshake. And I just think that was kind of bred into her team. And so all the little girls like me watching that kind of grew up with that inspiration. And so I think Southwest Missouri, that the girls basketball, the pocket just really boomed from that experience. My dad loved it. We got season tickets. We were 3 rows up. He kind of have to snap me out. He's like, Molly, no, don't look at the cheerleaders anymore. Focus on the game. When I was really young, those pom-poms were distracting, but I grew up loving the game. And in Southwest Missouri, you just had a lot of just tough, hard nose, get after it. I'm not very big in stature. It all seemed like we were just little guards just playing hard. And my dad coached my AAU team, and I'll just never forget just those memories and moments. And we just played hard. I think fought through adversity, which I think maybe is a little bit of a lost art these days. As we went to nationals and we ended up third in the nation when I was 10 and under, but we did not look the part. If you didn't eye test, you're like, they're not going to win. But we're just tough, from Southwest Missouri. So I think a long answer to that, but I really think the toughness and kind of some heart into those days as a young basketball player in the area is what I remember.
No problem, coach. I'm a talker, so long answers aren't a bad thing. I love to talk. So same question. You would use one word to describe your coaching style. What would it be and why?
Well, it's got to be tough too. I mean, I passionate probably more so than toughness, but the passion I have for this, you'll see it in a game. The officials say I coach with a lot of passion. So, our players, in the locker room from pre-practice, I just love what I do. And I'm a big proponent of energy. And so I want to give energy to get energy on the floor. So, I feel like I've ran a marathon after some games, just giving it all in terms of coaching and energy and effort from my end, because I can't ask that of our kids if I'm not willing to show energy and passion. So I think passion probably sums up my coaching style, although to pick one word for a coach, that's tough. But I love what I do, and I hope that I show that on the court, in practice, in the film room, in meetings, whatever we do. I'm trying to have a great passion for it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you play your basketball, you mentioned at Drury. Tell me about, that time of your life. I think, looking back and obviously you jumped into coaching shortly thereafter. We reflect on things and realize, as a player, this really grabbed me. And as a player, this really didn't grab me. This didn't really pull me. So just tell me about that time and, what you learned during that time as a player going to a coach.
Well, I was super competitive as a player, and that's carried with me in my adult life and my coaching life. In fact, when I was done and got into coaching, I'd run on occasion, probably because someone wasn't telling me to do it. But I remember one day I was training for the New York half marathon, and I was running, and like she was probably double my age, but she like passed me, and I'm like, so like I was just trying to go on a leisurely run, but then like I killed myself to get back in front of her, and then I had to stay in front of her, of course. And so I'm like, gosh, does the competitive nature ever leave the athlete? And no, it doesn't. So I guess that's helpful in the coaching world, but we're so competitive. I don't know if we were ever the best team to step on the floor, but we had a lot of success, made it to Elite Eights, top 25 almost every year in the nation at Division II. And so I think that's what I took with me the most, is just if you have a lot of heart, a lot of passion, a lot of competitive drive, then your teams are going to be successful. So I saw that firsthand play out in our career. And I wasn't the most, for me, I was 5'6" is probably pushing it. I think my physical says 5'5 3/4, but you got to round up on that one. But I wasn't the biggest, the strongest. I was pretty quick, but maybe not the quickest. So I relied a lot on my defense. And so I became kind of a known for, that was my staple, my defense and how I got after it. And obviously that's carried over into my coaching. I've got a real passion for defense. And so that's what my team's staple is as well. So it's funny how they carry over. And I wish I could go back and like just watch every moment as an 18 to 22-year-old, because you probably tend to forget. Something I knew I didn't appreciate at the moment was how much goes on for a coach behind the scenes. It's like, oh, the bus shows up, or your plane tickets show up, and the meals show up. And we were grateful, but I don't think we ever realized how much work went into that behind the scenes. So now I'm appreciative. It's funny, I'll get some calls from my former player. One's at GA right now. I was like, Coach Miller, if I never told you before, thank you for everything you did, because oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. And I'm like, yeah, you figure it out. So, part of me wishes I could go back and appreciate that even more so, knowing what I know now and what it takes to run a program, even logistically, away from the X's and O's.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier your first assistant coaching job was at your alma mater. It hits different, because, this is your baby, your background. You've been here for so many years. Number one, tell me what made that position the right one for you, and how hard was it coaching, at that school? Because obviously you were very successful there. You knew the standards, and obviously you don't want to leave the program worse than what you found it. So just tell me, why it made sense.
Well, first of all, when you step foot on campus, it's not your first time, as the head coach. You kind of know the ins and outs, where the business office is, where the library is. Like, so it's a smooth transition in that realm. But I also believe that when you get a job, the people around you are so important. And I knew those people to their core, you know, and that from administration to other peers, you know, baseball coach, basketball coach, soccer coaches, we knew each other. So, and then the fans knew me. They watched me since I was yay big and they were rooting for me. So obviously I just felt this sense of people were in my corner, and you love that. You know, when a head coach takes a job, people are probably like, Google or what's the dirt, what's going on? Like, are we gonna like her? Are we not gonna like her? Well, I was already in a position to where they were rooting for me, and that felt very calming, but gave me a lot of confidence to take over the job, because I knew that they wanted me to succeed. They weren't going to nitpick me. They really wanted to lift me up, because we had a history. So that was great. I also believe that when you're taking over a job, we were in a great position at Drury. You know, Coach Nyla Millison was the architect of that program, and she coached me for 3 years in college, and we were established. But it's like, how do we get to that next level of being the best of the best? And we did. You know, before COVID took us out of the tournament, we were undefeated, and we were number one in the nation from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And that we kind of reached the pinnacle, you know, and that kind of also was another reason why I maybe transitioned to the next phase in my career at the Division I level. But you want to leave the program, because I had so much respect. So, you know, I think it goes both ways. They were invested in me, but I was super invested in that program. You know, I didn't want to fail them. I wanted to do right by Drury University and the women's basketball program. So, you know, I put everything into that, and that makes that blends really well. When you've got them rooting for you, you're giving your all. And recruiting wise, it was just something that I felt we could recruit there and win there. So.
Mhm. So you mentioned you become the head coach there. You know, we've all as coaches seen the clinics. I'm a synergy nerd. I love to be on there watching different teams. I talked to you before, you know, we started doing this. I'm always on synergy. I'm always watching somebody. I'm always looking to learn something new. But obviously, you can't run everything. You know, it's all these ideas in the notebook, but you can't run it all. For me, when I'm processing things and I'm watching it, I learn what I like and what I don't like. So it's your first year of the program. What was one thing? Just give me one thing that was mandatory for you. With all the stuff you learned, you say, you know, this is for year one, we running this. Like, this is what we doing.
Most people might give you an offensive answer, but I'm not. Pressure defense. That was a non-negotiable. I'm convicted to the way we play defense, and I knew we were gonna do that pressure, high intensity style. So that was something that we had a lot of success in. You take a lot of teams out of their offensive rhythm and maybe what they do. I think that's a game changer for us. And so I'll always be convicted to that style, and that'll always probably be my number one. And it was my number one to implement when I first got here.
Mm-hmm. 198 and 24 in 6 years there, 67-1 the last 2 years there. Obviously very successful. Two-part question. What are the non-negotiables for your program when you were there? Tell me some non-negotiables.
I don't want this to sound cliched, but you have to establish a culture right off the bat, and you can't waver on some things you truly believe in. You know, we have kind of, people call them pillars or non-negotiables or the foundation of your team. And we've always kind of had 4 everywhere I went, just to believe in it. And like, this is the basis and we're going to work off of these. And one is manners matter. You know, I think it's a life thing, not just a basketball thing. We talk about manners matter, and, you know, being gracious and saying thank you, whether that's you're getting off the bus and saying thank you to the driver that took you there, or, you know, who's cleaning up the gym when you're done, you know, being appreciative of that, and maybe putting on some gloves and helping yourself. So manners matter was kind of a cornerstone for our program. Communication is required. That is something that, and they kind of go hand in hand with the other one. Commitment is expected. So communication is required and commitment is expected is something that we talk a lot about in our program. We want to communicate. I am not a, you know, my way or the highway. In fact, we won huddle last game. We were kind of in a tighter game, and I asked, how do you guys want to guard the ball screen right now? and gives some players that control. But I think that constant communication makes them feel comfortable with just being able to share ideas, share thoughts, whether that's in what we're doing off the court, how we want to spend our time in the community. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to get in front of, the kids? Do we want to go to a food bank? Like having some ownership in the program, which is really important. So that's been huge for us. And then, you're not going to be able to play our style without the commitment piece. So the commitment has to be expected. Every day you come in, you've got to be the best version of yourself for this team, because it's not siloed. This is a team sport, and I think that's really important for us to know. And then just service. Everything you do, have kind of a service mentality about yourself. This game's bigger than us. What we do on the daily impacts a lot of people around you. This basketball is a marquee sport at Drury and GCU. We didn't have football. So, you're kind of spotlighted on campus. Well, they're coming to your games and supporting you. What are we doing to serve them? So I think some of those things are invaluable in culture for a program, but life lessons too. There's so much that can be paralleled. Basketball is kind of a metaphor for life, and when you're going through this.
I always say winning is an art. It doesn't really come as easy as some people think. You did a lot of winning there. What are some things you did to sustain the winning mindset of the players? Because obviously, there are plenty of games that people get into and it's a close game. You see teams crumble or elevate. You did more of elevating than crumble. Do you think it starts with recruiting players that won in high school at a high level, so they're conditioned to winning, and game situations don't really overcome them because they know what it takes to do it? Because some people say, good players, extremely good, great players, but, not winning games really hurts the program sometimes too. So just tell me, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you got to recruit winners. I think that's, that's a DNA thing, and you can massage that and grow that a little bit while they're in the program. But I think that's an internal drive that you either have or you don't have. And so for us, we recruiting is your lifeblood, and we spend a lot of time on that. And I've said this a lot, I'm slow to offer, and there's a reason for that. Not because I don't believe a kid couldn't come here and play and make an impact, but I want to get to know kids, and I want them to do the same for us. I want to be a good fit. So the relationship building is important, figuring out what makes them tick, extracurricular activities, or if they can finish first in a sprint, are they always doing it? Are they taking some reps off, going to practices? So all that's really important to me. And I want to do my due diligence just for our team's sake. I've got a bunch of good apples in the locker room right now. I want to add to that. I don't want to put a bad apple in there and spoil the bunch. So we always recruit with the utmost highest priority of getting good character kids. Obviously, they got to be able to make a shot or two and play basketball, but academics goes in there, extracurricular activities, just communication, how we mesh and dialogue on the phone, because that's important, the player coach relationship. So that's got to be there even before there's an offer. And so for us, I think recruiting is probably number one. And then you compete in practice too. Everything has a time and score, so that's how you can develop a little bit of a competitive edge when things get tough, to overcome some adversity, and maybe when it comes game time and you're playing someone else. And then what we've always had a great at Drury, gosh, those players led the locker room. We were a player-led team. So, I was just there kind of organizing everything, but we really had some competitors that's like, no, we don't do that at this program, or yes, great job, keep it up, or this is how long we're doing open gym. I never got involved in that stuff. They had a passion for leadership. So we had a really good leaders. And then once, you don't want to be the outlier in that situation. If everybody's coming and they're 10 minutes early is on time, you don't want to be the one walking in, at 10 o'clock on time is late. And Coach Miller doesn't make those rules. The program makes those rules. So that's really special when you can get to that point to have the player-led team, when they're just running things themselves and they're doing exactly what I would do. They believe in it. They see the success. and they feed off that success, and they know that the process works.
So as you mentioned before, you won a lot of games. I interviewed Coach LeBlanc from Brown University. She was at Merrimack before. I used to always say that any 10 conference is one of the best conferences in America. There's a lot of good teams there. She was there, Bentley, Assumption, other really good schools there. So let's get right to it. You're a D2 team. You're at your peak, the best, or at least one of the best in America. Now, I know in my opinion, I'm assuming you feel very confident about your team. You're willing to play anybody, anywhere, anytime. So you're scheduling, you're looking to play people. I'm sure some Division I teams came up to mind. And I know you don't got to mention the team. I'm sure some turned you down. Was it really hard setting up games against that higher level of opponent? Because in my opinion, it's really about, like, I really love that Dawn Staley was talking about why she took the Ole Miss game over the UConn game. And it's about growing the game. To me, that's what it's all about. It's really taking the game to another level and giving the kids an opportunity they possibly wouldn't have had anywhere else or any other time. So what are your thoughts on that? Is it true? Were they ducking the work, Coach? I need to know.
Well, yeah, scheduling is hard. Scheduling was so hard because, we would even say, like, we don't want to guarantee, we just want to play. And even that wasn't like flying. So, but it's okay. I mean, we went, I think it was 3 years ago, went in and beat a Power 5 team. So once we beat that Power 5 in an exhibition, there's no really chance of getting another Division I exhibition for a little while. But that's okay. I understand. I'm on kind of on the other seat now. There's been some scheduling pressures, but we might not, I don't think I'm going to do whatever is best for GCU. At this point in time, this is my second year. We're in the infancy of the program. Like, I don't care what anyone else says. Like, you need to do what's best for your program. So I just feel like schools were doing that, and that's okay. That's okay. Whatever best for the program, they need to look out for their program. And especially for me now and these first few years, like, I need to establish what our program looks like before we're going to go out there and compete with some bigger schools, and that should be okay. And so I can't, at Drury, when I was having some issues scheduling, you can't fault anyone who was looking out for their program. So, but we had some competitive Division II. Our Thanksgiving tournament always drew well, Union, Central Missouri, Arkansas Tech. When you're regional, you got Ashland and Grand Valley. I mean, you have some powerhouses that we were playing every year, Minnesota, Duluth. So I think when those good teams kind of are in the same boat, then you just end up playing each other. So that makes for some pretty good non-conference schedules too.
Mm-hmm. You answered that question with grace, Coach. with extreme grace. What is a skinny? From what I understand, it's a deeper layer of teaching a concept. Doing small-sided games, but you tell me in your words, what's the skinny? Why do you do skinnies?
A drill within the drill. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, but there's not a lot of fluff involved. So we're doing a shell drill, for example. There's a lot of things in shell drill: on ball defense, one pass away defense, help side defense, closeouts. Let's say we're doing awful at closeouts. I'll blow my whistle. I'll say, here's how I want this closeout to look like. Everyone does it perfect. All I want is 2 reps each and we're done. And this is the skinny we're going to do real quick. So we'll do a skinny and then we'll get back to the big picture. So yeah, it's just apart from the whole, in season right now, we'll do skinnies more so how we're going to prepare for an opponent. So yesterday we did a round of skinnies. We had 5 baskets going, and one basket was how we're going to guard the post, this upcoming game. Another basket was how we're going to guard on-ball screens, and then just go really, really quick. So you're getting a lot accomplished, but you're almost setting the stage for scout for the next team at this time of year when we do skinnies. So the kind of skinnies evolve based on what you're trying to accomplish and where you're at in the season. So a skinny for us right now looks a little bit more like prep, or I'll watch a game film and we could not find a body on them. 5 people were not blocking out. So I'm like, we're going to do a skinny just to re-emphasize that point of importance of a block out. And we'll have everyone, just do a really quick rebounding drill, but, tally what's important to us. We'll tally non-block outs, and then, we'll maybe however many non-blockouts, you got down and back 4. So just some points of emphasis with a skinny is really important that you want to get through your team. And they know when I say the word skinny, it's like, oh, I got to lock in because this is important to Coach Miller and this is a game plan, or this is something I need to focus on that maybe we're not really good at right now or not where we want to be. So yeah, just a breakdown. And just a small part. I guess that's why I call it a skinny. It's just a tiny part of what we're trying to do.
I love it, Coach. I love it. Repetition penetrates even the dullest of minds. Explain it. Who said it and explain it?
Well, Cheryl Burnett. So I talked about her earlier. So she said that, and I think it's just it's not really profound, but it makes a lot of sense, a lot of common sense. You just have to, if you want something to get through, rep it until it becomes habit. You're a creature of habit. So the more you do something, the more likely it's going to become a habit or a ritual. And if you can do those things over and over again and reps, and those are the things you're going to spend time on, that's important to you, and you hope that translates to the game.
Let's talk for one here. Your last couple of years at Drury, you're beating teams 27 points per game, 28 points per game. You went to the championship, fell just short. You made deep runs. You fell just short. Sadly, the year you were 32-0, COVID hits. But you win with grace, you lose with grace. It's easy to talk about the winning. It's hard to talk about the losing. Tell me what's running through your mind, in one of those games that are monumental, that your team falls just short, and how you grew personally from that moment. Because obviously the certain conversations are real easy, but you got a lot of disappointed kids in the room. What do you do? How do you respond? What did you say to them? And looking back at it, you say, you know what? I could have handled that better. There's a different approach I could have had, so just go ahead.
Well, I mean, everyone's disappointed. You see it in the locker room. So you just feel that emotion, and that's okay. So there's a lot of tears. Coach, I mean, because you're at that point, we're the favorite, you're expected to win. And I think for us, when you lose a game like that, you just got to wrap your arms around each other. And that's what we did. We just cried. The good thing, though, that came from that, they were all coming back. So it was like, we know what this was like. And we know the experience. And you can say whatever, but I don't think anyone was stopping us that last year. Well, the tournaments got shut down. So and you'd think that would get better with time. It actually gets worse, because you just see even now how hard it is to get there. And it's like, gosh, you had the opportunity, and those kids worked so hard. And again, we had come back and we hadn't won it the previous year, but we made it. We're one game shy, and so I think for us, it's like we got a lot of confidence in this year. We got the experience now that we need. We got the returners. And so the toughest one, and it wasn't even a scoreboard, it was, not being able to play in the tournament, thinking that you had a real shot. You were undefeated. There wasn't teams, really touching you at that point or coming close to beating you. So, I mean, in the times of losses as a coach, I think you grow probably a lot more in the wins. And I think most coaches would say this, they hate losing more than they love winning. And I've heard, well, then maybe it's not the right thing for you, or you should get up. But no, you hate losing, you feel that emotion from your players of disappointment. And so for me, you just kind of have to learn and move on. When it's the finality of your season, you thank your seniors, you make it a lot about them and all their dedication and hard work. And then when you regroup a couple weeks later, you're like, remember that feeling, that feeling ignites our postseason, going into our preseason, going into the next season. So I think for us, we didn't have to do it much, which was great, but it was always maybe a regrouping moment, which is needed, that reset button sometimes in the season. And that's what we use it for right now, at GCU. And again, we're not losing that much, but we have maybe a little bit more than I was used to at Drury as we're getting this thing started. So it's a good reset for us. And like, okay, how can we not lose the next one? Or how could we have won that game? And so there's a lot of teaching moments, although that might sound cliche. There really are teaching moments in the losses, maybe more so than the wins.
So on a happier note, you take the job at Grand Canyon. first D1 job. Obviously, I'm sure you had opportunities, and you want to make sure that your first jump is the right one. You want to make sure everything's in tune. I know you guys have pretty nice gym, pretty nice locker room, lots of amenities at Grand Canyon that seem pretty dope, pretty nice. But honestly, why Grand Canyon? What made it a perfect place for you?
Yeah, I mean, I could have been a Drury lifer. I mean, I had no plans really of making the jump to D1. And like you said, I had opportunities before Grand Canyon, but I know the grass isn't always greener. I know what I was doing at Drury. I was able to recruit the kids I wanted, the right way, the right kids, the right fit. And I could have stayed at Drury and won, 25 to 30 games a year. And that would have made me happy and competed for national championships. And I would have really enjoyed that. But, so there's something to be said that maybe pulled me a little bit to maybe I can make this type of impact on a bigger scale. So it never really motivated me, the level, the money, the status. That was never really the motivating factor. In fact, when I got the call from Grand Canyon, at first I was like, from the search firm, I was like, I have some unfinished business at Drury, and I did. And I was like, I've talked to some other D1s and who called, and it's just maybe not the right time for me, because I still had that, we got to go win a national championship, and we can, and there's unfinished business. However, someone was like, you might educate yourself a little bit on GCU. And so I started to. I'm like, okay, a private Christian university. And I started looking at their resources and their commitment to basketball and their fan base, the Havocs. And I'm like, wow, you could recruit here. Phoenix, are you kidding me? 330 days of sunshine. Like, it's 75 degrees right now. And, my sister's in Kansas City sending me pictures of the snow. And I'm like, no, thank you. So I'm like, maybe I should educate myself a little bit, and started talking. I've got, the president is such a visionary. He's so supportive. I work for a female AD, Jamie Boggs, who was awesome. That was such a pro in my list of considerations. Like you said, the facilities are unmatched. I mean, these are better than a lot of Power 5 facilities. And we're doing things that Power 5s are doing right now from a recruiting standpoint, when you can tell your kids, yeah, conference, we're flying charter, to away games. And that's going to help with school. And yeah, it's like a mini resort here. There's 5 pools on campus. I mean, so I'm like, I can recruit here. And if you can recruit to a place, you can win. And I could do it the right way. Like, my values align a lot with the GCU mission and the faith and the ability to serve, and just the whole atmosphere really vibed with my vibe. And so, yeah, it just ended up working, that it was a great landing spot for me to be able to do what I want to do. And I feel really supported, and the family's made the transition phenomenally. And it's big time here, and that's nice to be able to be at a place where you have really unlimited resources and full support, and a place that we can make something special and grow.
So these 2 questions are the most important to me.
Okay.
First one, what is Benergy?
Benergy?
I need to know, Coach. Tell the masses, what is it?
I don't know how I coined the word, but that's kind of a culture check for your program. What's your bench doing? Are they coming down and sloughing the high fives and then pouting because maybe they got taken out? Or are they pouting because they haven't been in yet? Or, so the bench energy, a la Benergy, is something that you talked about, non-negotiables, like that. Like, our Benergy should be engaged. You should be rooting for your teammates, be a good teammate. And so that's kind of a culture check of our program. So they know that that's so important. And then when you get that Benergy, it's just contagious. You feel like, hey, I'm in the foxhole with these other 12 of my teammates and these coaches. Look at them over there going crazy and rooting for me and trying to give me all the energy on the floor. And then there's a substitution, and they'll reciprocate that. Like, our Benergy was good when I was out on the court. Now I want my Benergy to be good when I'm on the bench. So yeah, that bench energy is something that's super important and kind of a staple of our program. And now I need to trademark the the word, I guess.
I love it, coach. I love it. I love it. So you have another saying, if one goes, we all go. Young people say, you got to see it through, my boy. So explain what that means to you and when you apply that statement.
I guess it could be, realistically in a defensive setting, like we trap and we go a lot. So sometimes, I'll say one goes, we all go. So if someone goes to trap, you better be on the same page and you go to rotate, you rotate up and you rotate up. So one goes, we all go. But it's also a little metaphorical in the sense of this journey. You just, like I said, this isn't an individual sport. Like one goes, we all go. We're kind of in this thing united. So I think it goes beyond just our defensive philosophy, but it definitely is a player there. But we're like I said earlier, we're part of a bigger picture, and we want this team to be cohesive. We want them to be player led. So one goes, we all go, having that kind of greater good mentality. Like I might be having, a really bad day, but I can't bring my teammates down with me. Like they're going to go to a place of energy and happiness that I need to come along with them. And then to that counter, like we need to bring our teammates along that are maybe struggling. So if we're going to go have a good practice and we see someone that's maybe, not in tune with what we're doing, do we have good leadership to bring them along? One goes, we all go, so I think that's reciprocated both ways, but definitely some philosophical meaning there, but also some very practical and literal meaning on the court defensively with our brand.
I love it. I love it. So you're going from 80 possessions a game at Drury to your first year at Grand King. You're pushing 55 possessions per game. With that being said, 18-7. My coach, my mentor used to always say to me, there's a method to the madness. There's something in the secret sauce. Why the switch?
It's not as intentional as maybe, right now I'm recruiting, we're learning the brand of basketball. At Drury, we were just forcing turnovers at a ridiculous clip, but that was a system that had been implemented for, the 6 years that I was there. So we were really, really, really good at it. It's a process right now, and it takes a while to learn a new brand of basketball. So when we initially started, right now we're top 5 in the nation in steals and turnovers forced. So we're still having success with the brand. And so that's translated really nicely. The pace of our transition offense and I call it a pick six, where we get steals and we get out and we score, after we go from defense to offense and only 5 seconds have gone off the clock. That happened a lot at Drury. So we're trying to implement that a little bit more at GCU. But like I said, it's a process. So one day at a time, 1 year at a time. But I think we do want to be high possessions per game. That means we're doing our job and forcing a lot of turnovers and getting some extra opportunities, maybe that we wouldn't have if our pressure defense wasn't what it really is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me your favorite drill or slogan that you preach or practice every day. So, you have this one, I need to start with this drill every day. Or this is what we do in this drill every day. The kids know it's on the agenda. They know what it is. Or every single day, or whenever you get a chance, you're saying this one thing to the kids and they know what it means.
Well, some feedback that I got when I first got the job here is like, Coach Miller, just can we mix it up a little bit and not do the same drill? So I try to do some same themes, but I try to keep, variety is the spice of life. I try to keep it a little bit fresh each drill. So we're always probably going to start practice with some sort of up and down transition drill. We say kind of our slogan is send it, send it, send it. So like we use our nonverbals, we point ahead, like so they can see us. We tee up, which is, we touch where the half court and the sideline meet. So we're always talking, we say T, send it, send it, send it. And we just really focus on those long passes and making them clean and just those transition opportunities. We do this a lot, not maybe every other day. I call it a DCMB, and that's defensive conditioning of the mind and body. And it's basically kind of a one pass away drill, really focus on technique. You know, I think that's where there's a lot of misses in drills, is like you're just doing the drill, but really, how do you want it to look? And I'll blow my whistle and I say, we'll do a skinny on just what a stance and what an athletic hand is supposed to look like. Like, yes, I said athletic hand. I want athletic hands. I don't want, you know, little small dinosaur hands. So we do defensive conditioning of the mind and body, DCMB drill a lot, which is just a lot of technique and how we want to turn the basketball and how we want to guard the ball, one pass away, on ball defense. And I use a lot of crazy terminology, so that tends to help too, just stick it in their mind. But that's something that, you know, offensively, we're always going to do transition drill. Defensively, we're going to do a lot of defensive drills. One hype drill that I love, you know, if the practice is a little stale, do a charge drill. You know, take a charge, they have to run and dive for the ball to save it out of bounds, and they got to pop up and change over and go shoot a layup at the other end. You know, just some toughness drills too to get the energy up in the gym.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, you know, before I got into coaching, I worked in media. You know, I used to work from home. I wrote for many different platforms as a journalist. And me personally, I would never work from my bed. I would leave the house to go to a Starbucks or somewhere else and do my work from there. My personal opinion was I want to keep my home a safe space. Not saying that other places aren't, but a safe space in a fluid place for rest. Tell me, some people have an issue as coaches bringing their work home. How do you navigate those feelings? What do you do? What's your thing?
I mean, we chose this life. So you have with recruiting these days, you gotta be on the phone, texting after school. So that means, you know, later in the evening, you're texting recruits. Something you have to do. You know, I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So if I can be there for night routines, I like to do night routines. And then I'm a little opposite. I'll get in bed. I love ESPN Plus. All the games are on there. So I'll go to on demand and I'll watch, you know, an opponent we're about to play, and I'll watch games. So that to me is kind of my downtime a little bit. And I know it's crazy because it's like working, but you know, that's part of the gig we signed up for. So I don't know if you can truly turn off. You know, I hear coaches say, well, you just got to turn off and not, but I try to blend the two as much as possible. And that keeps me sane. You know, we went on a road trip and my husband and my 2 kids were with me, and we got 2 road wins, which were huge, but we also saw the Space Needle in Seattle and Pike's Place, and we saw the fish being thrown, and you know, so we have experiences. So you know, a lot of people can't bring their kids to the office. I had a whole road trip with my family, and we still, you know, had a lot of fun. So it's a lot of work, and the hours are crazy, but you have to embrace them, and then you have to find those meaningful moments outside of work. But it might be interrupted by a text message. Go ahead and text back and get back to the meaningful moment. I really do think there's a balance, but I don't think you can cut something off and you have to blend, and you have to be a great blender. And that's how I've approached it, and it works for me. So if someone's a person that, well, I can't do work here, and I'm better if however you're the best version of whatever you need to be, a mom, a wife, a husband, a head coach, an assistant coach, a dobo, however you can figure out to be the best versions of yourself and whatever you're doing, wherever your feet are, then I'd say there's a bunch of different ways to skin a cat. So figure out what works to you and be efficient at what you're doing in the moment.
So you can only be one coach. So option number 1, you're great at X's and O's. You know, you're down by 1, ball's on the sideline, someone's getting loose. You drawing it up, someone's getting a good shot off, it's going in every time. You're on point. You know, your situational basketball is key. But from a personality standpoint, you're kind of like kind of dull. You're not like super hyper emotional or anything like that. You're kind of, you know, you tread water. You know, you're not gonna make a move mountains. Or you can be this fiery guy. You know, Coach Carter. You're this. You're that. You're, you know, you're one of those guys. You know, you're make them run through a wall for you, but down by one, baseline out of bounds, you're not that guy. You don't know what to say in the huddle. You're not drawing one up. The kids are on their own. They're on an island. Which one? Which one are you? Which one
Oh
do you want to
gosh.
be?
Yeah, that's a tough one because you obviously want to put your kids in position to win games and you need a little bit of X's and O's knowledge to do that. But I would say the passion, fiery, invested coach for me is what trumps everything. Because I hope that person also cares enough to maybe if they're not good at the X's and O's and they put some time into it to or prepare and become better at maybe some of those situational things. But I think just how much time you spend with kids, the investment that's shown, the fieriness, the passion. Maybe you don't have the perfect play drawn up, but they're going to run through a wall to try to produce. And I think a lot of good things happen when you're playing that hard for each other. So I guess I'm going to have to go with the passionate coach and maybe not so well versed on the X's and O's, but by golly, sure hope we learn and we take some time to figure some of those things out and prepare for those scenarios.
Definitely. A couple more questions, Coach. If you can give a young coach one piece of advice to help them grow, what would it be?
The best assistants or ops, GAs, managers I've ever had are self-starters. Like they take initiative. So, and they understood how to maybe make their boss their job easier, and that's valuable. So I think to a young up and coming coach, if you're not a head coach right now, it's, let's say you had to miss 7 days because of COVID. Were you truly missed? Are you that valuable that they're like, when does she get back? When does he get back? Like, we can't run this program without him or her. So it's really making yourself valuable. And a lot of that value is just being a self-starter and taking initiative. Like, hey, coach, I know this, and that's coming up, and I've done this, and this. Is there anything else you can think of? Wow, thank you. I'm going to mark that off my plate. Like, so just that. And if you're already kind of a head coach looking to work your way up or advance your career, I just think networking is not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. So it's kind of forming a brand for yourself and what that looks like. And a lot of people don't like it, but we are in a day of digital media, and I think you have to be in tune with this generation. And I feel like your digital platform is your working resume, and so that's something that's important to be involved in. But then just the clinics are reaching out and introducing yourself to coaches that you look up to and seeing how they got there and what were some important points for them along the way. I just think that's big. And the coaching world's small, so we know a lot of people. I can't tell you how many players I've recommended for GA spots or assistants that I've recommended. The Drury job, we kind of teed that up to where it was going to be a smooth transition to where my assistant took over, and they haven't missed a beat. So I think that's important too, who you work for, and if they value you and you value them, they're going to help you no matter what and be in your corner. So it's a lot of networking too there at the end.
So what can we expect to see from this team when they play? We're not talking about wins and losses or something like that. I go to one of your games. I'm in Phoenix. I catch you guys play. And after the game is done, what will I have seen? What do you want me to see?
Just the high energy and intensity that we play with, especially on the defensive end. I mean, I said it, that's kind of our staple and what we're known for. So just how we work, you can kind of tell the inside of a culture based on, I tell our kids, there's 2 things that I really care about. Everything else, we'll figure out, but it's energy and effort is the first thing. And then body language, what are you giving off to your teammates, to your coaches, to the other team, oh my gosh, she's tough, I don't want her to guard me. So I just hope that teams that face us kind of are a little bit in dread of the style of play. And then I think you see that as a fan, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have anything to do with that pressure defense. So that mentality of just all out pressure, working hard. One goes, we all go, we're getting turns, we're flying around, we're finishing plays, we're making second effort. That's what I really want our brand of basketball to look like.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything I missed you want to share? It could be basketball related, non-basketball related. I had some very interesting responses from people. So, it's your time, because, I asked a lot of questions, a lot of them, but I'm sure there are things that you're like, man, I wish you would have talked to me about this, or, there was something more I wanted to share, or, so this is your time.
Yeah, I'm so long-winded. I think my tangents cover a lot of it, but I just would say anyone that's maybe struggling with the balance, feel free to reach out. I've got mom guilt when I'm with my basketball kids. I've got coaching guilt when I'm with my biological kids. So, you're going to have that no matter what. So it's a balancing act for sure with the different directions you're pulled, especially if anyone's out there, taking over a program too. What are some things that were important to me in the beginning, and included, establishing a brand and an identity, but also the outside things when it comes to community relations, donor relations, in terms of just getting to know everyone, or marketing. That was really important to me. Something on my list was I want to have a meeting with the marketing and promotions team every week. So, and on Tuesdays I meet with them because I know how that's important to get our brand out. So, and then some things that maybe I was able to like give up a little bit and not have to do, and focus on this, that, and the other. And my assistants make that really great for me. Like, I'm like, I could care less about uniforms and equipment. Don't ask me any of those questions. You guys can take care of it. Plus, I'm not that cool enough. So ask the girls what they want. I don't care. So there's some things I'm willing to just push aside and have someone, and I'm kind of, I can be controlling a little bit. This is our program. I want to have my touch points on everything. But then there's some things where like, this doesn't truly matter to me, that I don't need to waste my time on it because I know someone else could do it maybe better. And that's one of those areas. So I think, or like food, where we're eating, I don't care. Just pick a spot, make sure it's pretty healthy. What are we wearing for our travel uniform? I don't care. So those types of things I don't really focus effort and energy on, but there are some things that are super important to me that I will put a lot of energy and effort to. So yeah, anyone, I'm just an open book, a phone call or an email away, and all my information is on the website. So I love sharing stories, and I can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from each other. So yeah, I'm an open resource, and I'll probably reciprocate with some questions of myself with some conversations. But yeah, the kind of the balancing act with being a mom and a coach and taking over a new program. Happy to kind of share some stories and ideas and thoughts.
Awesome. All right. Once again, thank you for your time, Coach. It really meant a lot.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No problem.